What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching a Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last Saturday, I watched Terminator Genisys, and Terminator Genisys is the 5th installment in the Terminator franchise. In 1984, we got Terminator. In 1991, we got Terminator 2 Judgment Day. In 2003, we got Terminator Rise of the Machines, and in 2009, we got Terminator Salvation. 6 years later, in 2015, we get the reboot. That's right, Terminator Genisys is a reboot. It's a reboot in the sense that they're injecting new life into the franchise. They want to revive the franchise. And even though it is a reboot, it works out more like a retcon, which it actually is. A retcon, for those that don't know, is short for retroactive continuity. And let me give you what an example of a retcon would be. Superman Returns, directed by Bryan Singer. Because Superman Returns ignores the events of Superman 3 and Superman 4. It continues where Superman 2 left off. X-Men Days of Future Past in some ways works out to be a retcon. And what it does is that it ignores the events of X-Men The Last Stand and also X-Men Origins Wolverine. It presses the reset button. That's what Terminator Genisys does. It presses the reset button. And they reboot it, or rather they reboot the franchise simply by making it a retcon. They're not telling the same story all over again. They want to start something entirely new. And that is by changing the events in the timeline. Doing some things that are different that we don't expect. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen in the trailer that some things are very similar, but some things are also very, very different. So in some ways, it works out to be a follow-up to Terminator 2, as if Rise of the Machines and Terminator Salvation didn't exist. But anyways, let's talk about the movie. The film is directed by Alan Taylor, who directed Thor: The Dark World. I really enjoyed Thor: The Dark World, so I expected this film to be semi-decent. And I'll tell you something, this franchise is just very, very hard to make a good film out of it, because the concept is brilliant, but the execution is really quite simple. The problem here with Terminator Genisys is that they try to do something very, very, almost too complex, okay? First of all, let's talk about the stars in the film. You can't have a Terminator film without the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's back, and then we have Jason Clarke as John Connor, Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, and then we also have J.K. Simmons, Dio Okeniyi, Matt Smith, Courtney B. Vance, Byung-hun Lee, and a bunch of other supporting actors. And, well, Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, complete miscast. This was a very, very poor decision. It made it feel like Terminator for teeny boppers. So that didn't quite work for me. Linda Hamilton is the definitive Sarah Connor. Okay, she's the only Sarah Connor. She is what defines what a badass mother of a resistance fighter is. Okay? Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese. Oh man, that was a bit of a crime casting him as Kyle Reese, okay? Jason Clarke as John Connor. Jason Clarke is an actor who I really, really respect, but I think that I didn't like the approach in how they wanted the direction for this John Connor. I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like his acting, it's just the direction, where they were going with it, with the John Connor character. I felt that it was all wrong. Now, I'm no expert in storytelling, but this story was a bit of a mess. I'll tell you something. One thing about one of the themes about Terminator is, of course, fate. And, of course, the way they define fate is through time travel. No matter how many times they try to fix the events and prevent Judgment Day from happening, it's gonna happen. You cannot change fate, okay? And that's what this film is all about. There's a lot of time traveling going on because they want to change fate, or change the events of what is supposed to happen. Okay, they want to prevent it from happening. And so, in a way, it's kind of like the same movies all over again, or rather the first three, because really they're trying to prevent Judgment Day, but you know they couldn't prevent it, so they just end up delaying it. And this film is no different. The first half of the film really felt like a Terminator movie. And then the second half of the film, which I didn't enjoy as much compared to the first half, it really felt like they were just trying to wrap things up. I wouldn't say, okay, that's not a good way to put it. I wouldn't say wrap things up, but it felt like they were just trying to throw everything at the audience, including the kitchen sink, okay? There was a lot of time travel going on. There's a lot of talk about alternate universes, or rather multiverses and parallel universes, or, you know, there was just so much talk about all this time travel nonsense that it really, really lost me as an audience. And to top things off, the actors really, really do a good job in holding their own as these iconic characters that we've known from the past. So unfortunately, my opinion is kind of biased because I'm a big fan of the first two. I think they're superb films. I thought Rise of the Machines was decent. I thought Salvation was going off in a complete tangent, but for entertainment value, it was still okay. But this one, I just felt, I gotta say that it's the weakest of the five. And it's all because they really, really strayed away from the theme of Terminator by just making it a little bit more than it should be. Okay? And of course, what I mean by that is really just deviating away from the original content or the original theme of the franchise. All right, I know they want to prevent it from happening, but they do it in a way which makes the story so complicated that you really have to, you almost need to watch it again, or you have to look it up in the internet to find out what the hell is going on, and that didn't quite work for me. And to top things off, the one thing that makes these films, or rather the first three Terminator films, exciting in some ways, is the villain. The villain, of course, the first Terminator film almost worked out to be like a horror film because the Terminator played by Arnold Schwarzenegger is so scary. All right, the second one, it had those elements in it, but it was more about it played out more like a sci-fi action film because the T-1000 was really, really terrifying as well because this is a brand new type of villain. And then you had the TX in Rise of the Machines, and she was just as terrifying as the second one. But in this one, we really don't get any of that at all. I mean, we got the T-1000 played by Lee Byung-hun, and he had a lot of the same elements as the T-1000, but of course Robert Patrick played it a hell of a lot better. And then we have a bunch of other villains. Okay, we just had a villain that is doesn't feel very scary. I mean, he just shows up out of nowhere. It almost feels like a lot of the action sequences are just not very engaging because suddenly the villain pops out of nowhere and then we're in a chase scene and then he almost feels like he's too overpowered. You can't even destroy him. You have a Terminator versus another Terminator. They're completely indestructible. So where's this really going? All right, it doesn't even feel like one Terminator is more stronger than the other. It just feels like two Terminators going at each other, and there's no real ending to all this fighting. Okay, so I just didn't feel it. It didn't quite work for me, making me feel like this is the weakest of the franchise, unfortunately, and which is too bad because I think that the Terminator franchise is, like, the concept of it is actually quite brilliant, and I thought it would be great for them to bring back new life into it and have them do something entirely different. But they did a little bit of both. They did something that felt like it was trying to emulate the first two, and then it did something to do something completely different. And it felt like Alan Taylor didn't really know where he wanted to go with the story, and because of that, it ended up being a mess. And for that reason, I'm going to have to give this movie a 5.5 out of 10. Okay? 5.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed the first half of the film. The second half didn't do anything for me. In fact, it really disengaged me, unfortunately. So there you have it. That's all I got to say in this video. 5.5 out of 10. And I'll tell you that my favorite character in the movie is J.K. Simmons' character. He really added a new dynamic to the film, and it's too bad we didn't get to see more of him. Alright, so there you have it. That's all I got to say in this review. If you want to see more videos like this, and you want to keep up with my reviews and news updates, click like, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation, and also like the Ragin Nation Facebook page on Facebook. And there you have it. My name's Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Parker is a character who has a lot of issues. He's dealing with a very emotionally conflicted issues because he maybe has to deal with two